May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke audio podcast, A Brief Memory. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free from economic hardship, and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitations of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. So here's something from Patrick Wordsworth, and I see I didn't date it. Who knows? All right. Oh, it dates itself. Hi, David. First thought, best thought. That's something that Suzuki said, and Trungpa said. Suzuki might have gotten it from Trungpa. And Allen Ginsberg used to say it, but he said he got it from Trungpa. But I see roots of it going back to William Blake. But William Blake said first thought, best thought in art, and second thought, best in other matters. So, as I recall. So, Patrick Woodworth says, now 42 years after I first saw Shunryu Suzuki at Sokoji, one rainy Saturday morning in February of 1969. All right, let's do a little math. 69, 31 years. It's 52 years, so this is 10 years ago. I find it difficult to isolate my own memories of him from all that I have learned since from the many people I have heard talk about him. Hey, Patrick, welcome to the club. Me too. Having begun to meditate on my own in Sacramento as I read 3 Pillars of Zen, I wanted first-hand contact with a Sangha and a teacher. So when I heard of Suzuki from Anne Armstrong, a psychic who lived in Sacramento at the time, I knew I had to find him. At that time, his Sangha hosted a Saturday morning practice period beginning maybe at 5 a.m. and continuing to at least noon, perhaps longer. No, that sounds about right. That particular morning, my wife and I were welcomed by a student and showed to cushions, which I believe were located upstairs in a mezzanine above the main floor of what had been, I believe, a synagogue. Right. In the early morning dark, I felt a deep intimacy with the steady rain falling from the eaves of the building. Breakfast was particularly memorable. It was served semi-oryoki style at our zafus. We each got an egg in a small bowl, a mixed grain gruel, and pickled daikon. I assumed the egg was hard-boiled, so blithely cracked it on the edge of one of the bowls. The yolk drizzled into my tray. I felt intensely embarrassed as I watched everyone else breaking their eggs into their gruel and stirring. Someone brought me a rag and helped me clean up, but I was off to what I thought was a pretty bad start at being a Zen student. Good Lord, man, how are you to know? We had people, it should have been announced every time because we had people break the eggs. Not sure who broke the egg, and it just went all over her dress. Most people don't know that Japanese put raw eggs into the morning gruel. And we stopped doing it later. It was very Japanese-y back then, and at Sokoji. Although I just did it the other day here. So anyway, here we go. We sat several periods, did soji, that's cleanup, and then came time for lecture. That was really my first meeting with Suzuki. There this diminutive Japanese man sat before the gathered Sangha, sitting in the pews of the main hall. Actually, I remember him standing, but I think that was at a public lecture he gave at another time. No, I think he stood to give those lectures there, but I'm not positive. Sometimes I think he stood down. He said it sounds like he was giving the talk downstairs because there were so many people, and I think he stood when he did that downstairs. I think he stood when he did it upstairs too. At Tassajara he sat, and then at Page Street he started sitting because it was set up for that more, All right. He stood, taking his time to listen to what needed to be said. At first, I couldn't tell if the time he took between the sentences was his effort to translate from Japanese or if it was his contemplation of the moments arising. Probably it was a little of both. So this is what a master looks like, I thought, and somehow I wanted a spiritual teacher to look exotic. I would have found it hard to believe at that time that an ordinary American could have any spiritual authority, and the fact that I often couldn't understand major parts of what he said contributed to the picture I wanted to have of someone who might offer real insight into mind. I have a vivid memory of him standing answering the question of a hippie with a huge head of red hair grown as an afro. He asked him about the acceptability of hallucinogenic experience in spiritual development. Suzuki was completely unfazed by the question and answered it with the same equanimity he might answer a question about bowing in ceremonies. His body was the answer. It was poised and equanimous. His actual verbal answer, which I can't recall, made little impact. There was nothing special about the question and nothing special about the words he used to answer. Here he was, far from his Japanese home, at home in the fermentation of hippie San Fran. That was the answer I received and continued to receive years later. That summer, my wife and I visited Tassajara for the first time. We stayed a few days, long enough to witness Suzuki at work in the stream bed of Tassajara Creek, redirecting the course of the flow so it would follow the Tao he felt. I watched from above, standing on a bridge, as he conducted his opus. Eager young Zen students grunted and huffed, levering stones into new positions. Then he would wrap his samoe-clad arms, samoe's work clothes, around mugwork clothes, around a boulder half his size and lifting and carrying it to a possible new location. It was clear that the result mattered not nearly as much as the sheer joy of the activity. Judging from the smile on his face, he could have carried that stone from place to place all day and never grown tired of seeing it fresh in a new surround. That's all I remember. The rest of my relationship to him is built on that. For years, I had the picture that was on the dust jacket of the first edition of Beginner's Mind on my altar. Though I left the practice for long intervals, I returned to Green Gulch in the late 90s to sow Raksu and take Jukai. That's lay ordination. In 2003, I attended the fall practice period at Tassajara with Reb Anderson. The practice has never left me. Suzuki's presence is like a mantra that may fade from consciousness but remains in the subconscious. Recently, Bruce Fortin, who met Suzuki around the same time I did, offered a seminar on Not Always So, during which he reviewed Suzuki's biography as presented in Crooked Cucumber. So his memory was refreshed in me. I suspect that refreshment, that sustained freshness, was his essential message. It was there in everything he did, but especially in his astonished smile and laughter out of nowhere. Clearly, he was having fun. That was spirituality that could sustain a lifetime. I'm nearly 70 now and just sat my umpteenth session last week, coming away refreshed and glowing with the ordinary. Wow, nice letter, man. That's great. This has been a Cuke Audio, a mini podcast of brief memories. I'm DC Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, and I'd like to thank our sponsor at this point, which is you, dear listener. Oh, and if you'd like to contribute something to help us keep going, just go to the donate page on cuke.com, cuke.com, and you'll see donate links there. That'll take you to the donate page. And we'd appreciate it. It's easy and it's enjoyable. And it would be rewarding to you and to us. So we're coming from Sleepy Sonur with Dogette Bandita, Feline Cuchita, and dear lovely Katrinka. And we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.